Hey guys, how's it going? And thanks for coming. I'm Nick, and this is Real Life Money, where we talk about real life and money, because you know schools aren't. Don't forget to subscribe, so let's get started. So in this video, we're going over stocks to buy, and it's not necessarily an individual stock, but actually an entire industry, because stuff is going down. So what industry are we talking about? We're talking about smoking the marijuanas. This video is for money-making purposes only, not recreational drug use. So the marijuana industry is a hot topic right now, guys. A bunch of stuff is going on because in Canada, if you're in America, our northern neighbors are planning and almost there to legalize recreational marijuana. So that's obviously the main reason why people would want to get into weed stocks, because if they legalize it, then the stock will most likely go up very much, and probably over the long term, because it has that growth and momentum behind it, it could even go higher. So obviously you must imagine that this has to go through some process to get to final legalization and going through all these retail stores and actually selling it. So there were a bunch of votes and all that getting up to this point, but recently, last week, early June, so Bill C-45 is toward the big question of legalizing marijuana. Well, this bill was actually passed by the Senate. Now this includes many amendments and will still have to go to House of Commons for approval. Now, do I know what that is? Not necessarily. I'm trying to update myself as time goes on. But this is one step closer to legalization. So how long can it still be? Well, they're saying it could take a few more months. People are assuming maybe August or September. Most people are leaning towards September. Now, the very interesting numbers is at how this bill passed. It won 56-30. So that's a really huge margin. It's not like it just made it. It was a pretty overwhelming number that it got passed. Now, a couple of the main reasons why they want to legalize marijuana, and this is or would be the second country in the entire world to actually do this. The first one was Uruguay. So Uruguay legalized marijuana in 2013. You could see that this place was mobbed when it finally got legalized. But they're saying a reason to do this is to take profits away from criminals and also protecting the youth. Now, will that actually happen is another story. But since we know kind of where we are in the marijuana industry, there are a couple of individual stocks and companies that can benefit hugely from this law. So the first one, the biggest weed company in Canada, is Canopy Growth. Now, Canopy Growth is very interesting for a couple of reasons. First reason, like I just told you, it is the largest company involving marijuana in Canada. So if you wanted to get heavily into this industry, Canopy Growth is definitely one of the main players to play with. It's also interesting because it's a Canada thing. It's being legalized in Canada. So most of these companies are on the Canadian exchange. However, Canopy Growth just went on the New York Stock Exchange. So now Americans could more easily invest in this company. So you can see we have the chart of Canopy Growth around the $30 stock. Has been all over the place. You can see every single month this year has been huge moving. In May, however, it is up over 20%. The ticker symbol just went public on the New York Stock Exchange. I think it was the end of May, so very recently. Their ticker symbol is CGC. Now, I want you guys to understand that investing in this industry or any one of these stocks is different than any other stock that we normally talk about, because this has like laws and legalization behind it. So most of these companies are actually not making any money whatsoever, and I normally would not invest in a company like that. However, if it does become legalized, obviously the companies are going to start selling it and start making profits. So that's why kind of looking at these numbers, negative numbers, you could kind of throw that out the window. So looking at a couple things of Canopy Growth, and by the way, this is with the Canadian exchange. Their ticker symbol was WEED in that, so it was above around $39 Canadian dollars, by the way. But it is between a $7 to $8 billion company. You could see their numbers are just ridiculous, including their 52-week change of almost flirting with 400% return, guys. Incredible. So going into some of their numbers, their revenue, you could see obviously it's increasing because they are starting to produce it and starting to get ready for the legalization of it. They want to, sell it in retail. They're producing it. Canopy Growth has 2.4 million square feet of land that they're producing this stuff. So you can see their revenue is increasing. Now, like I said before, their net income is negative. They're not making anything right now. But since, like we talked about before, they are gearing up. So when or if it does get legalized, they want to hit the ground running to finally start selling and making money. Now, the balance sheet of Canopy Growth is very, very interesting as well. You can see they have a ton of cash, over $200 million right there, and they don't have much debt. So they do have the resources to continue to grow this business into the future. So that's definitely great to see. Now, along with Canopy Growth, the largest marijuana company in Canada, a rival of them, still same industry, marijuana, is Aurora Cannabis. Just another stock or company to play with. Unfortunately, they are on the over-the-counter market with the Canadian exchange and everything like that, but still a player in this industry, around $4 billion. So kind of the same deal as the other company. You can see their 52-week change of around 350%, so up amazingly. And again, with their balance sheet, you could see their cash. They have a good amount, so they could continue to grow, but you can see they do have some debt there. So guys, it's interesting, I gotta tell you. A lot of people are expecting that the supply is going to be much greater than the demand is going to be much greater than the actual supply. If you remember that picture I showed you before with the line out the door to get weed, that's probably what's going to happen. So in my opinion, and by the way, there are a bunch of other stocks out there, these are like the main guys to play with. You can buy an ETF if you don't want to choose like an individual stock. You could choose the entire industry. It does have an expense ratio, but you could do that too. But Canopy Growth is very interesting because it's finally on the New York Stock Exchange, so it's now more readily available. Now, going back to my opinion, there are a couple things to look at. The first thing is it got this far. Like, it got approved and passed multiple times. Like I told you before, it didn't like just pass. It beat 56 to 30. So it looks very likely there might be some amendments thrown into the law just to make things, I don't know, more legalized or whatever. But this is definitely something that I never really witnessed before. Like, actually legalizing something. So obviously once it gets legalized, that growth is going to be tremendous. So just realize there is a high risk and high return. So this is basically pure speculation, guys. Now there is good probability of this happening. So if it does, it will probably continue higher. But just realize if it doesn't, it's going to drop very, very hard. So I kind of see it happening. I understand why they're doing it, kind of profiting from this industry instead of letting criminals do it. So I definitely see the growth behind it. So in my opinion, I do kind of think that it's worth the gamble. So I would play with, personally, Canopy Growth just because it's the largest player there. And it is on the New York Stock Exchange, so it's a little bit more readily available. So I would actually suggest, well, maybe not suggest, of course do your own research, but I might play around with that. I definitely wouldn't play with a huge amount. So I don't want to say this is like a huge gamble because it does seem likely to go on. But if you have some gambling tendencies on you, I would suggest maybe playing with it. Now, should you sell as soon as it pops after the legalization, or would it be a long-term investment? Would definitely be the next question. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, I would love to hear your opinions about this topic down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Not if you're planning on traveling to Canada, if you're planning on investing in this. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, guys. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram for bonus content, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see ya in the next one.